Hi there, it's your imaginary friend. It's been a little while since we just had a chat, and yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I actually wrote myself some notes about the things that I wanted to talk about. I may read from it, or I may just refer to it, or who knows? Let's find out. But I'm going to start by reading from the bit that explains why I wrote it down. I wrote these thoughts down to make some semblance of order out of them, to ensure that I didn't leave anything out, and to guard against just freezing up in the middle of it all, because I'm daunted. This is the hard part, talking about stuff, reading things is easy. Somebody else has already done the hard work. Whew. Let's get into what I wrote, since I've done the hard work for myself. Providing something for other people to connect with is part of the core of why I do this channel. I thought it was important to have something posted regularly in order to be dependable, and also that if and when someone takes a real interest, there might be a decent sized back catalog to go through. Because, that's the thing that's happened to me. I find a channel that I'm interested in, and I go look at what there is, and there's not a lot. And then sometimes they never post anything again. And you're like, oh, but I liked that person. I wanted to hear more. I wanted to go back and look, and then if they're not posting anything now, and there isn't anything for you to go back and look at, then kind of out of luck there. So we didn't want other people to have to go through that, to feel like they've made a connection, like, oh, this guy's nice. I like what he has to say. I want to hear more of it. And then there not be much more. Weekly seemed like a reasonable cadence, and one I felt I could keep up if I set my mind to it, considering this being something I do in my free time. Yeah, I don't make any money off of this channel. That's why you don't see any ads um, or anything like that. I don't monetize in any way. I don't really intend to. That's not really the point of doing all of this. So it's not something that I can dedicate a bunch of time to, because I do have to, go out and earn my daily bread. I figured it'd be good if I didn't have anything really fresh to do or say any particular week, which, it's going to happen, to have some pool of kind of ready made content to draw from when I needed it. So I looked into reading works that fall under the public domain. Yes, because again, I don't make money from this, so I don't don't have a lot of money to spend on it either. Although I've been buying a lot of books, I will say that. I've been buying books for this channel, but they're good books. I've really enjoyed them. I had a copy of H.P. Lovecraft's Supernatural Horror in Literature, and actually had that for years, which I'd been meaning to get into for some time. I'd actually read a lot more science fiction and fantasy growing up, but I did have a small fascination with Lovecraft's work and all that has been inspired by it. It'd be interesting to learn what had influenced him, as he has influenced so many others. Yeah, and that was basically why we went in this direction. But it was in this way that I hatched the ambitious notion of reading not only supernatural horror in literature, but all of the works that he touches on in outlining this history. And that's how that's come to be the majority of the content this channel currently has on offer. And yeah, let me tell you, there's a lot. Considering that he refers to to like the Viking sagas, and there's a lot of those. So there's a lot to read through. I think if I read absolutely everything that he makes a reference to, I'd be doing this for decades to come. uh, but providing that something for people to connect with has remained important to me. I do hope there's a little bit of something in the presentation when I'm reading a story for my imaginary friends. But I also think it's important to do other things. Yeah. And I've tried to, you know, diversify to do recipes and songs and, showing people around the house and stuff like that, just because I feel like, that idea of having somebody to connect with, a more broad of a exposure that you get to somebody else's uh, life, the way they think, the inner workings, or how they do stuff, how they think about stuff, the more that you have to connect with, I think, and that's really, like I said, that's the whole point of this is to give people some kind of sense of connection. I went looking recently to see when the last time was that I posted something other than reading a selection of the history of horror literature as described in H.P. Lovecraft's Supernatural Horror and Literature, and it was prior to the last channelversary. I wrote here that seems like a long time, and it does seem like a long time. So there's been a lot going on in the world at large, at work, at home. I'm proud of myself for keeping up the weekly schedule under the circumstances, and that's true. I've really I think it's important to keep that dependability up, and I've really tried. There've been times when I've recorded a few things ahead of time because I knew something was coming up that was going to take a lot of my time or be challenging, and I might not feel like reading, and like when I don't really feel it, when I'm like tired and stressed, I feel like that's going to come across when I'm reading. I'm not going to do my best work, and I'm not going to be somebody that you want to listen to. So I try to capture that time when I am feeling more like able to present something decent, something that people will want to watch, and then allow myself the time when things are too busy or just too stressful, um, to kind of let that slide a little. So, but I've still been able to keep up the weekly recordings, and or at least publishing weekly, and that's I've been happy with myself for being able to do that. Um, but putting the book down and facing the camera with nothing to hide behind has been daunting. Yeah, and that's very true. I mean, here I am talking about my own thoughts and feelings and reading them because that's easier to do. Oh dear. It's not that everything in life has been stressful and terrible. Certainly, a lot of good things have happened as well as a lot of bad. But I've struggled with what is actually fit to bring out and what isn't. And this is me just not knowing what I'm doing on in general. But yeah, so if I talk about good things, how close am I coming to bragging? Like there have been a lot of stuff that I'm happy with, but like if I acquire something, if I accomplish something, like am I showing off? Like who wants to hear that? Um, but on the other hand, if I talk about the bad, am I burdening my imaginary friends with my own troubles? And that's another serious one too. Like I mean, if I just sit here and just moan about everything that I'm upset about, like how fun is that? It's a downer. It's who's coming here for that? On the third hand, got three hands apparently. I lost my place. Oh no. On the third hand, if I leave out both the good and the bad, what's left that would be of any interest? Bold of me to assume any of this would be interesting in the first place, really. And I wrote just here, and I've just touched on the other reason there. When you find yourself questioning, in essence, whether people want to make that connection you're looking to offer, where to start begins more and more to resemble whether to start. Like if I'm thinking about, do people really want to see that we remodeled our kitchen? Or I've said it. I mean, it's really nice. But certainly there are plenty of people out there who are like remodeling their kitchen isn't on their mind at this point in time. It's a thing that we were able to do, and not everybody's able to do that. I mean, it needed to be done. The kitchen was like not usable. Really, I mean, it was usable, but it was cumbersome to get anything done in there, so nobody wanted to cook. It was all just, it wasn't well organized. Somebody had made changes to it, like the original design. They had come in and done stuff, but the stuff they did wasn't great, so nothing was well laid out. It was hard to get to the stuff that you needed. It just needed to be done, and it's so much nicer now. But yeah, like I fully realize that that's kind of a privileged thing to be able to to say that that we were able to do that. So like, does that like what category does that put me into? And then like if I come here and talk about my stress from work, like everybody's got stress from work. Why? What they're people are concerned with their own stuff. Why need me to be bringing you down with my problems? You got your own problems, you know. But then if I don't talk about any of that stuff, then what do I have, to offer for people to make that connection too? If you're not hearing about the good or the bad in people's lives, then what are you hearing? Like, it's just show. It's just face paint at that point. Um, so I don't know how to answer all these questions. I don't know how to figure all this stuff out. I'm not good at this. Really not. Oh, okay. Where was I? Okay. I imagine I'm probably not the only person feeling this way, especially lately. Not just with respect to producing content for a YouTube channel, but generally, personal connections have become more and more of a challenge, it seems. I think a lot of us out here are finding ourselves wondering whether anybody really gives a damn. Man, I wrote that down in a lot of different ways. And I think that's really true. It feels like, just in general, and I think part of the reason that I really started this channel to try to offer something for people to connect with is that people have been finding connections more and more difficult. I read somewhere that that the average person only spends about maybe 2.5 hours a week with just relaxing time with people that they really want to spend time with. And that just seems like, man, out of a week, that's not a lot of time. Like, that's, you watch a movie and that's pretty much most of that time. And yet, like, it's something that I think the isolation, the pandemic has certainly helped to speed up, but I feel like society has kind of been going that direction for a while, even before the pandemic. I mean, it's dropped considerably from what I read in that article. It was about 6.5 hours before, in like 2018 or something like that. And I mean, that's a heck of a drop, but it still doesn't seem like a lot of time to be spending. I mean, if you're not spending your time out of work on spending time with people that you care about, like, I don't know, what are you going to work for? What are we doing any of this for if we're not seeing the people that we love, if we're not hanging out and just being with people that we care about? Like, that just seems like that's the point of doing all this, is to be able to be here with people that you care about. And if we're, as a society, as a culture, if we're less and less able to do that, I feel like, what are we doing? I don't think we're happy. It's kind of a downer. Whew. But I gotta say, I feel a bit of a weight off my chest for being able to sit and talk about this stuff with you guys. I know I think part of the reason that I haven't been able to drag myself here to talk about anything else is that's been kind of sitting over my shoulder, thinking like, I don't know how to talk about the fact that I'm not talking about stuff. There's so much going on, like so many things to sort out. What if I just put my head down and read? And I don't think that's nothing. I think that's been, like a contribution. I feel like, I'm at least getting the participation trophy. But I want to say that I'm going to try to do a little more extra of some kind or another. Like, we have, from time to time, we've had a cocktail party around the Lovecraftian themes, and we've come up with some cocktails that are based on or inspired by some of his works, which is deeply ironic since he was absolutely a teetotaler. But then he had some other beliefs that I don't share. So, well, now for people who don't drink alcohol, that's perfectly fine, and we actually have more and more friends who fall under that umbrella, and so we're actually spreading out to try to get to make non-alcoholic versions of a lot of the cocktails that we've come up with, and all other cocktails as well. And there's some more and more resources for that sort of thing coming up lately. If you're looking for substitutes for mixology, that you can get that like interest of mixing different flavors and smells and sensations together, which I find is just a lot of fun. Like it's nice that you have more resources for being able to do that and not have to have it be alcoholic. I think that's great. So, but said all that to say that at some point I do have a cocktail that I'd like to share with everybody. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll, now that I've said it, now that I've put it out there, the motivation to actually do it will be there. Yeah, so I've had like I've got a number of different ideas about things to do. There are places to show you around, the house that we haven't been before. There's um, I have this funny idea to do sort of like a legally distinct version of Mad Libs, kind of where we take some of Lovecraft's older works or other horror stories that are in the public domain, and do that thing where you take the words out and ask people to provide nouns or verbs or whatever. And I think that's something you could do on the channel. We just put up a post in the community and have people just throw words in there, and then I'll go pick a story and put those words in it. That'd be fun. So we might do that at some point. Who knows? Um, but yeah, really, I just wanted to have just a conversation, just to set the book aside for a while and be me in front of the camera, so that if anybody had been feeling like, like the stories are good and everything, but where's the guy? Where did he go? He's hiding behind his book all the time. So here I am. Sorry about hiding. Sometimes that's what happens. But yeah, we all do the best we can. I guess we're all kind of struggling. Everybody's got hardship that they're going through. It's just kind of how life is. So I think, to my way of thinking, we share that together. And when you share joy, then it's multiplied. And when you share sadness, then it's divided. So I think let's all try to just be there for each other a little more. Like, make the effort, reach out, call somebody, think about somebody that you haven't heard from in a while, and just send them a message or something. No big commitment, just like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. How are things going? Here's a couple things that have happened to me lately. What's happening with you? And see if you can stir that back up. Who knows? I really appreciate it. Anyway, I appreciate you guys listening to me. And thank you so much just for being out there.